This is 26-year-old Dawson McGee, sitting in a police interrogation room in the early hours of a Tuesday morning. The Monday night before, he stabbed his own mother to death for asking him to move out of the house and get a job. Dawson is unaware that he is being recorded on a hidden camera. In 3 seconds from now, he will hear the sound of the door being opened by a detective. And at that exact moment, you will see a remarkably noticeable switch in his demeanor.
We've got something we want to talk to you about. We want to talk to you about what happened to your mom.
What happened to my mom?
Well, you tell me.
People called me and said something happened at home to Mom. They were very bad.
Mm-hmm.
What happened to my mom?
Well, that's what I'm asking you.
I was waiting for my brother and sister to tell me.
Okay. Well, so, was your sister home this weekend?
Wait, I'm supposed to have an attorney?
If you want one.
Am I supposed to have I should request an attorney.
Well, that's up to you if you like one. But, I mean, we'd like to talk to you.
You're supposed to have an attorney. I would offer, I would ask for an attorney.
Do you want to ask for an attorney?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
It would come as no surprise that a judge deemed him fit to stand trial. A jury then found him legally sane, and he was sentenced to life in prison for the murder of his mother. All of which was in spite of a continuous charade of mental illness similar to the one you see here. Dawson clearly believed that his passage through the legal system would somehow be easier if he were presumed insane, which is a naive, yet somewhat common misconception that many suspects make when facing serious charges. They have this notion that a plea of insanity would either lower the severity of their punishment or liberate them from it altogether. That instead of being sent to prison, they would simply be released back into society, perhaps with a free psychotherapeutic program to attend on the weekends. This is, of course, a far cry from reality. In the United States, if you're found responsible for a serious offense, but also found not guilty of the crime by reason of insanity, you will be institutionalized at a high-security psychiatric facility. These institutions are without question some of the darkest and most disturbing places in the system. And if you're not actually suffering from the crippling effects of mental illness, living in this type of environment will be a mentally agonizing experience. The foresight of what occurs inside these units would make the majority wish to avoid them. But once you are in, it is very hard to get out, and you will have to serve the same, if not a greater amount of time than you would have had to serve at a regular prison. So to put it briefly, if you commit a serious offense and then pretend to be crazy in order to get away with it, your life from that point forward will be an extremely dark and uncomfortable existence whether you manage to fool the system or not. But there is one benefit, which is the elimination of capital punishment. The United States cannot execute someone deemed insane during the time of their offense, which is the only conceivable reason a defendant would cling to this narrative even after knowing what lies ahead should it succeed. And this happens to be a notion that ties in closely to the primary subject of this video.
Members of an online subculture who define themselves as unable to find a romantic or sexual partner despite desiring one. Essentially, an incel is a male who wants to have a girlfriend, wants to have sex, wants to have a romantic relationship, but by their own perception, those things are unattainable for them. As a result, they blame women for not being attracted to them, or alternatively for being attracted to other, non-incel men. This blame can also be put on other men who incels feel are more attractive than them, therefore acquiring more attention from the opposite sex, often referred to as chads. This viewpoint can result in an incel being bitter and angry primarily towards women, which naturally can make them less likely to get a romantic relationship, and the prophecy becomes self-fulfilling.
Guys congregate, and there's ongoing conversations every single day with people all over the world. And a lot of incels are really obsessed with their looks. And I think it's kind of gives us a nice window into the rejection and the depression that some of the incels are really feeling.
I think all men deep down are really pissed off by women.
Wish you all were dead.
And they adopt this sort of fatalistic attitude that they are not genetically made in an attractive way for women, and therefore are doomed to never find intimacy.
The subculture of incels has grown from a small forum where dateless individuals could share their experiences and ideas to almost a hate group against women. Many times they freely discuss violence against women who refuse to engage with them sexually or romantically, or violence against men who they feel are more attractive to women. Incels have their own terminology, their own ideology, and even more prominent incels that they look up to. Enter Elliot Rodger.
I'll be a god, exacting my retribution on all those who deserve it.
Elliot Rodger was born in London and moved to the United States with his parents when he was 5 years old, eventually being raised in Los Angeles. Throughout his life, he experienced consistent bullying, mockery, and beatings. He also showed signs of developmental and behavioral disorders despite never being formally diagnosed. As he got older, his bitterness and hate for those around him began to grow. His jealousy and anger toward women who he felt ignored him grew as well, leading to multiple violent incidents when he was an adolescent. In 2011, Rodger threw coffee on a couple he was jealous of, and also threw coffee on 2 girls for not smiling at him. In July 2013, after being mocked at a party, Rodger attempted to push a small group of girls off a 10-foot ledge. Rodger's grievances were also well documented. In addition to having a YouTube channel where he would post videos expressing his displeasure at what was going on in his life, he would also end up writing a 100,000-word manifesto entitled My Twisted World, the story of Elliot Rodger.
With respect to his interrogation footage, the most conspicuous element was the complete lack of self-preservation. He didn't once attempt to deflect blame, nor afford himself any type of justification for his actions. He simply spoke in a factual, non-biased manner, impartial to how his words may have been taken or even twisted to be used against him. There was no calculated structure to his behavior whatsoever. So with this notion in mind, let's move on to the primary subject of this video.
Not fun. Good. Just go there a minute, have a seat on the bar chair. Alright. Pull your hands up a little bit. Have a seat. Did you feet up? No, do not think about getting up, right, buddy?
This is 19-year-old Nicholas Cruz, who 3 hours and 55 minutes prior to this moment murdered 17 people at his former high school in Parkland, Florida. Among the dead were 3 teachers and 14 students, the majority of whom were 14 years old. A further 17 students were seriously wounded during the massacre. The gunman dropped his rifle 7 minutes into the rampage and then blended in with the crowd as he ran out of the building. He was at large for 1 hour and 20 minutes, during which time he stopped off at a Subway and then a McDonald's, where he sat down and casually spoke to one of the victim's brothers. The student was unaware that his older sister had just been shot through the chest by the man sitting across the table. The description of the shooter was transmitted by police over the radio, which led to an officer identifying and arresting him on a street just 2 miles away from the school. He was taken to the nearest hospital and examined by a doctor for roughly 1 hour and 45 minutes. He was medically cleared and then transferred to the local sheriff's office where he was subjected to interrogation.
No, do not think about getting up, right, buddy?
From the moment the subject entered the room, his eyes have been fixed upon nothing but the floor. He's held on to this downward-facing gaze as if he's either in a state of shock or disconnected from the moment. At the exact moment the door shuts, he lifts up his head to observe his surroundings. His behavior completely shifts once he believes no one is watching. If we look at his demeanor a moment earlier, we can see the contrast. He went from being detached to alert. His behavior changed as the environment changed, which is a recurring theme throughout this interrogation. It shows us that his mind isn't wandering off during these moments of apparent disconnection. He is in fact fully present and very aware of what's going on around him. As he looks up, his eyes immediately lock onto the camera. He now knows he is still being watched, and his following gestures will resemble that of someone with suicidal tendencies. At face value, these externalized suicidal thoughts may seem genuine to some, but when framed with the rest of his behavior throughout this interrogation, they are exposed for what they really are: an act, a calculated attempt to garner sympathy and paint his character in what he believes to be a more positive light.
All right, how you doing, Nick? You all right? Gotta be able to speak so I can hear you. Alright, I just need to ask you really your name and date of birth just to confirm I got it right, and then I'm going to see you want a glass of water or something. What's your first name?
This is a situation where the proof against the suspect is already conclusive. He is without question responsible for the crimes under investigation, making the pursuit of a confession not essential. The police know he did it, but they need to know why he did it, which would already require a complex strategy in order to obtain the correct information. But the suspect's first recorded statements upon his arrest have now made the procedure considerably more difficult.
What's going on today, bro?
The demons, man.
Demons?
Voices.
Yeah, no problem.
Voices.
Voices and demons?
Where's the voices? What happened?
Shut up. Just be quiet, man.
Shut up. Demons, man. Voices.
These two words have now forged the primary strategy.
I sleep, I dream. I don't want to dream. Something happened out there in the desert that night during that mission, and it's not what we thought it was, and it happened on my watch.
We've been down this road with you before, yes?
No, sir. Not this road.
Congressman Shaw! Sergeant Shaw, you ever dream about Kuwait? Captain Marco!
How much do you actually know about your friend?
I served under him. He was a good man.
That's what the neighbors always say about serial killers.
Somebody put an implant inside me. I got a good feeling they put one in you, too.
You need to get help, Ben.
I'm not crazy, Shaw.
Raymond, this is J.B. Johnston of Manchurian Global.
We're strong supporters.
At a flick of a switch, we can adjust character, change personality.
These are not supposed to exist.
Raymond Prentice Shaw. Listen.
This is a coup. This is rich people funding bad science to put a sleeper in the White House.
Among the shareholders in Manchurian Global, you would find former presidents, supposed kings.
Yeah, I get it. They're big. They're huge.
And you bring me rumors and conjecture.
I started with nightmares, rumors, conjectures. That's a giant leap forward. Somebody got into our heads. Neurons got exposed and circuits got rewired. I think you should leave.
What are you doing?
I gotta find out what's gonna happen, where it's gonna happen.
He's delusional.
Watch where you going!
You swore to me that this was fail-safe. No leaks, no glitches. I will do whatever is necessary to protect my son.
We're gonna stop this and take them out. You don't think they factored you in?
Hello, Captain. Do you remember me?
Man, I want to believe you.
Believe me. Help me. Or shoot me.